Good afternoon. This is Veterans Talk. It ain't nothing but a thing, but it's a thing we want you tuned into every Saturday afternoon. I'm here doing the same thing, been trying to do ever since we started the show. Making sense out of a sensitive situation called the plight of veterans in the USA and the USA with the plight of veterans. Today we are here doing it with, my name is Elsa McGee, doing it alone in a way. We got one guest coming up, but Tony is still running around the country trying to do good things. So we want him safe, and he'll be back here next week with us. And we'll be, Misha should be back on the show soon. She's getting in school. Everybody is in school right now. And that's something that we started talking about last week that we want to kind of talk about a little bit more this week. Why? Because these are our children. These are our children. Either they're students or teachers. They're sisters and brothers in an institution that's essential to the growth and development of our young people and our community as a whole. What we need to do, and we need to do it now, we got to start vetting these people that we're electing to government positions all across this nation. But we got to start right here in GA, Georgia. I'm calling out to all 700,000 more veterans in this state. I want to talk to you about this government and how it's functioning right now. Ain't nobody know how the government functions, supposed to function better than veterans. Look at your service in the U.S. military. You had a duty you had to perform. You had to be somewhere at 5 o'clock. You better be there at 5 o'clock, because at 5:15 you were late. You know. So what we got going on now in our government, starting on every level, is incompetence. You know, it's total incompetence. We see how the governments are functioning. And on every level, on the city level, on the county level, on the state level, and on the federal level, our governments have been invaded by anti-Americans. People that don't want to see this multicultural, multiracial democracy develop into what it's supposed to be, develop into a more perfect union, where all people are created equally and have the equal opportunity that can be afforded by this nation, the richest, most powerful nation on planet Earth. And I want to say this, it's because of my service and the service of all veterans in this country. Less than 1% of the population in this country ever have to serve in the U.S. military. That's the smallest minority in the country. But we have fought, sacrificed, and died for the freedom that y'all got. Point blank. We know that. And we got young people today, every graduation year, coming out of our communities going into the U.S. military, ill-equipped and ill-informed about what they got the opportunities to do. The U.S. military offer more career opportunities than any one organization in America. You know, you can go into the U.S. military, a PFC, and come out of Colin Powell. Y'all listen to what I'm saying now, because there are opportunities that our children should be, well, let me say, informed about, taught about, so that they'll know when they go into the U.S. military. I don't care what branch of the U.S. military. We're talking about all 6 branches right now. You know, when we were active, Vietnam era was. Yeah, she coming up. All branches of the military. What we want to do in our community is recognize this. Without the U.S. military, the way the world has grown closer by technology, we would not have the freedoms that we have today. We just wouldn't have them. We would have already been overcome by dictatorial powers on earth, because these dictatorial powers are very powerful because they have harnessed most of the wealth. You know, dictators have harnessed most of the wealth because they are able to power over their people and make them work for slave wages in every major country on this earth. You look at how people are paid for their wages for what they do to build these countries' economic and political systems, and you'll see that it's a classic kind of structure everywhere. And a gang of dictators can take over any government, whether it's a democracy or another autocracy. And that's because of military know-how, military understanding, and being able to put that military into use. That's why you got these people right now in the United States of America that don't have any respect for our government, the structure of our government, for the laws that we all follow. They don't have any respect for the truth and the way we see things. They got alternative facts for everything that don't agree with their perspective. And there's very few things right now that's agreeing with their perspective on a social, economic level. And I'm going to show you what's going on. The Supreme Court have made decisions within the last 3 years that's turning back the hands of history in terms of freedoms that people have. The U.S. Supreme Court. Now we see that this U.S. Supreme Court have been methodically stacked with people that believe in one thing, what they call the far right. Now, what does that mean? It's a sense of autocracy. It's a sense where people feel like they got the right to tell the people what to do rather than the people got the right to tell them what to do when they run the government. It is we, the people. This country is based on we, the people. And it is codified by giving everybody the right to vote. Now, how important is this? Well, up into the 60s, well, the 50s really, white women didn't even have the right to vote in this country. They were seen as a part of the white man's ownership. You know, he owned slaves, he owned black folks, and then he owned businesses. And the businesses give him the right to own the employees. We see how that is going against them right now with the strikes on the automobile industry, the strikes on the movie industry. Why? Everybody is saying that these top autocracies, the way our democracy is designed, that people can take over governments and take over medias, and the billionaires that take it over want to dictate what it can do. Now, I know, and every veteran know this, you got a right to speak First Amendment, say whatever you want to. But you can't go in a theater and holler fire when it ain't no fire. You just can't do that, because that would disturb the people and cause people to run out of the theater and maybe get hurt. You got a right to talk against some people, but you don't have a right to demonize them and call them names and make threats against them and cause people to act out some of the things that you are advocating when they are the least of these among us. Now, why I'm saying the least of these among us, I'm a combat soldier. I know what it takes to kill a person. I know how it feels when you kill somebody that you don't know, really. I had no knowledge of them. It is a mental disturbance, but it don't last long if you got a negative view of that person or that person cause. It was a horrific experience for me as a young man in Vietnam in combat to kill somebody that I had never seen before. But I was trained and I was ordered to do that. And I was put in a situation where I had to do it. I had to perform the duties I was given by the U.S. government. We don't have that same kind of adherence to the government by these elected officials that want to make everybody feel like our election system don't work. It can be rigged by somebody. You know, as vast as it is, they really think that unless it is a conspiracy to rig it. Now, you can do it if it's a conspiracy to rig it, as we see is being developed by the prosecutor in the state of Georgia. Now, whether this is true or not, we need to go to trial. We need to have a fair and open trial so that the presumption of innocence is assumed to all the evidence is in and a jury convict. Now, what we hope won't happen, that we will have inflamed the population with the rhetoric so much that you can't get you won't get a jury that will follow the evidence. You won't get a jury that will follow the evidence, and that will come because of incitement and invoking of people's base prejudice and playing on the uninformed and the mentally unconstitutionally adapt. So we got to watch out what we're doing, and it starts within our education system. Our teachers, underpaid, let's just face the reality, for the job that we got them to do. Now, it is not the parents' fault that the teachers are underpaid. It's what we have allowed to gravitate in the running of our government. They're not working the government for the betterment of the people, to keep it growing and able to function further and deliver what the peoples need in the country. It is criminal to watch all of these big corporations, top echelon, getting millions of dollars in salary, and the workers, they can't afford health care, they can't afford child care, they working 40 hours a week, and they are not able to take a vacation without worrying about the bills. We have to get on a fair level of looking at things, and it got to come from the veteran community, because we're the only people in the community that have experienced working as a part of the government on the level that we have. All across the veteran community, we worked on every level of military service, every level. And this military was only integrated in 1954, fully integrated in 1954. President Truman issued a desegregation order in 1948. But it took that long to deactivate the colored units and integrate the colored troops into the white units. And, racism was there because of the hatred and the mistrust and the misteaching and the mistreatment. So what happened, it took up until today that we could see the effect of the integration of the U.S. military. Up until this, I'm thinking the Afghan generation, where, they fought a war that was longer than the war in Vietnam, but they didn't have as many casualties. They didn't lose as many people. But the same thing happened in that war that happened in Vietnam. They lost soldiers and they pulled out, they stopped. Why did they stop? We shouldn't be asking why they stopped, because we should stop all wars. We should ask, why did it start? What was the underlying cause of us going into Vietnam? It was economics. War is about economics. Big guns cost a lot of money. I don't want people to think that I'm against military. I'm not against military. I'm a soldier. I'm 100% for military service. And I want to encourage young people that they serve, include my grandson, Sergeant Freeman Harris, to keep on doing what you're doing. But understand your role. Understand that you got a vote coming up, just like every one of us in the civilian world. And you need to vote for what you see. We need to get these people out of our governments on every level that's not working the Constitution. Period. If you don't do your duties in the military, you might get an Article 15 one or two times, but then court-martial coming. They don't play that. We shouldn't have to play that in the military government service. We shouldn't have people that get elected to office, swear to follow the Constitution, and when they get up there, they got all kind of disturbances going on. You know, we got a senator, one senator coming out of Alabama that's underlining military morale right now by upholding the capacity for the government to promote people to a higher rank. I mean, but why? Because he believed, now there's no law, you know, there's no law that gives him this authority, but he believed that he should hold it up because the military law allows young military personnel who get pregnant to be able to go into a state to get medical care. That's why he's holding it up. Now, we don't need them kind of people in our government. That's our fault. We let this happen election after election because what we're doing, we fighting party. The party done took over. They like gangs now. You know, they can't do nothing less than the party leadership tell them to do it. And look at what the Republicans are doing in right now. They are wasting tax dollars. They're doing impeachment inquiry. You know, all them folks should be sued. And I'm looking into the fact, can we sue them for misappropriation of government funds? You know, that's what it is. You know, I mean, unless they can come up with some evidence to prove what they're saying, they should be, you know, held accountable. You are held accountable every day in your military service. Every day, not one day, not sometime, all the time. 24/7. A lot of people don't realize this, but when you're in the military all day, every day. 24/7. Even when you're on leave, you're still in the military. You're up under military orders. You can go on leave today and tomorrow they call you back. And you got to come. You know, your leave been cut short. We need people in the government that function just like you do in the military. And they need to be held accountable when they don't function like they've been. Why? Look at this. I got to go here now. I got to go here with some facts that you need to know. The VA just acknowledged this. Over 56,000 veterans who filed a request to update their dependency status online because they failed to do the upgrades. And what does that cost? It either gonna cost you a increase or decrease in your monthly income. I got one that happened to me, and they're taking $400 and some a month out of my pay because they made a mistake. And they complicated by telling me they made a mistake. You know, why? They know there are no repercussions. They're working hard to get this straightened out so it won't happen no more. But what about the infliction of stress? See, when you're on fixed income, you stressing when you pay your rent. You stressing when you go to the grocery store because you don't have enough income to cover your lifestyle, daily living. You don't have enough to cover your daily living. Right now, in the city of Atlanta, a 2-bedroom apartment costing you $2,000 a month. I mean, the mayor just said that when they were talking about taking people off the street. They just bear witness to that when they said they was taking people off the street. We gotta realize that this is something that we have to deal with as veterans first. See, our families, and we just got to take in consideration, our families were proud of us when we went in the military. You know, I still got pictures where my mom used to put on the mantelpiece of me in the military. And my uncle, my daddy, pictures on the mantelpiece. They're proud of our military service. So what do we get out of that military service? It's benefits. Benefits that were meant for the veteran, his family, and his community. Right now, this what the VA this is the latest incompetence on the part of the VA. And they know what they want to lay it on? The PAC Act. Oh, they was checking to see about how they can better implement the PAC Act, and they find this error that they got 56,000 families suffering, and they say they're gonna take them a little minute to get it straight. I'm suffering because they taking $400 something a month out of my pay. This is my fault. This is our fault. I had a prayer visual in front of the VA in 2012 with Dr. Richard Carver, Abel Mabel, Reverend Love, and a few other people. That the prayer visual turned into a rally that got so heavy, so many people showed up, it was stopping traffic. We had to move out. The Atlanta VA has a reputation of being the worst in the country, and we still get going out there getting mistreated, and our elected officials are just giving lip service to it. What happened during the Trump administration? Now, let me just say this here. I mean, the PAC Act, I'm gonna get to that, but what happened during the Trump administration when he started telling us we we're gonna line up? He privatized the exam system at the VA. Every veteran that applied for a disability have to go through exams. They have privatized and then got businesses to do these exams that have no sensitivity toward the service that you rendered and the issues that you are filing for claims. They always come up with an opinion that's less likely against you. It's going to be in the service connection or the rating aspects of the claim. And it's all controlled by this exam system now. Anytime you file a claim, you got to go through this exam system. And they're going to send you to these examiners. And if you're late, they close the case and they send it back to the VA, so your claim is automatically denied. You can go back through the system, but you know, when you're sick, I've seen too many veterans die while their claims were still in the process, while their claims were still pending. And I can call names because I got the case load in my office right now of veterans who died while their claims was in the process because of this capacity to put us on a merry-go-round when it come down to our benefits and how these benefits are laid out. Right now, the PAC Act, let me get to that. I said the PAC Act. They just announced that they done gave out over $1 million in claim under the PAC Act. But let me tell you something. They have denied more than that shouldn't have been denied. Why? The PAC Act did not include all of the military bases in this country where Agent Orange was stored, tested, and transported from. It didn't jump up and fly to Vietnam or fly to all these other locations around the world that they just acknowledged. It started in the U.S. military. Dow Jones was a U.S. company in the U.S. borders. So this stuff had to be held by individuals, veterans that were serving on military bases in this country, and they was excluded in the PAC Act. Got one right now that we're talking about suing the Congress to amend the act because they know that these military bases are contaminated. They know it. It ain't like they don't know it. They got the information. But why did they leave it out the PAC Act? There are literally thousands of veterans that got the same conditions that I have, heart conditions, right? Tumors, brain tumors, glaucoma, but everything that toxic exposures can cause to your body, these guys have the same thing. When I filed my claim, it is a presumption that I was exposed because I was in Vietnam. That was an acknowledgement of Congress because when I came out of Vietnam, when I was discharged, came out of Vietnam, they were still saying, no, that ain't true. It took them until the 80s to recognize I got out of the military in '69. It took them to the 1980 to recognize PTSD. In the late 80s to recognize Agent Orange exposures. Thousands of veterans and families have died from this exposure that the promise to take care of us didn't reach reality. So the plight of veterans is something that I'm gonna keep on the table as long as I can talk, as long as I can walk, because it not only affects me, it affects generations of my family, because I got veterans in my family right now. I got people in my family right now serving in the military. And it's the same military that I served in. It's just better because racism has been diminished significantly in the military. But we know it's still there because we can look at the Flynn brothers and know that it was there. You know, the two generals that's calling for a white nation. You know, so we know that it's going to always be there. But predominantly, the military look like the rest of our society. It is the most integrated, most diverse part of the federal government. And it's the most effective. And it's the most loyal. And that's what we need in all of our governments. And I'm calling out on veterans. I'm hollering out on veterans. This year, not 2024, you got local elections. And that's where we got to start focusing. On these local elections where you got a Georgia General Assembly that can come up with a law to remove a prosecutor from her job just because they don't like who she prosecuting. That right there to me is a separation of powers. You know what I mean? You know, we got 3 branches of government on every level. That's the way the Constitution is constructed. You know, one, you know, the way that we should be dealing with the Supreme Court right now with the way it's acting up, don't fund it. Just don't pay them. You know, I mean, you got some ways that Congress can check the Supreme Court, because the revenue, where they coming from? The House of Representatives. But we got a House of Representatives now that's been infiltrated by anti-Americans. And veterans should be looking for ways to sue some of these folks that's done infiltrated our government and not doing what they took an oath to do. They took an oath to perform their duties in government. Then if they was performing their duties in government, we wouldn't just now be getting the infrastructure bill. Because I got bridges, I see bridges in my hometown in Atlanta, I don't want to go up on them. You know, they've been messed up that long. But because of the way we done got the two-party system has been corrupted by what I call superior people, people that think they're superior to the people that elect them. You know, they become celebrities, and it's hard to get to a Waldorf than it was to get to Herman Talmadge. I'm just telling you. You know, I got to go through loops and hopes to get through. I had the NAACP call Herman Talmadge, and he went to work for me, just like that. He didn't ask for no form or no nothing, none of that stuff. That he went to work. He got to pull up my case, and the thing I know, I was before the Senate Committee on Veteran Affairs, and I gave me a tour of the White House from the prison system. So what we're looking at is a malfunctioning government because we ain't voting right. We haven't put any mandates on these parties either. See, you know, the way the House is acting now, it should be a mandate that all them people should be removed. I mean, especially Margaret Taylor Greene. I think that she was a part of that insurrection, you know? And I mean, so she shouldn't be able to hold no position in government either. You know, and we got to start demanding that the government works for everybody. Now, I'm gonna get off this sound bad, you got to take her to the bathroom. And we got a guest in the house. She'll be back with us shortly because she got a grandbaby there with her. But what we got to do is look at things that affect our everyday living. And the thing that affect veterans most is their income. Now, let me say this. We can sit back and act like we don't know what shutting down the government gonna mean. We don't get paid. Our benefits don't flow to the bank. So we can't sit back and wait till these markets. Excuse me, Lord, forgive me. I'm a preacher. I can't get into fighting the devil with the devil. One of the things we need to do. All the veterans need to start writing their representative. I don't care whether they Republicans or Democrats, and tell them if they shut the government down, come on home. Come on, because you're gonna be fired. We're gonna make sure you voted out of office if this government shut down. We got to start using our vote like we know what it is. We act like giving them our votes. Well, after we give it to them, we helpless. We ain't got nothing to say to them. And don't care how hard it is to get to them to say something, we don't say nothing. It's time for us to speak out against the way our governments are functioning on the city level, on the county level, on the state level, and on the federal level. And we do that best with our vote. If we keep giving our votes to whoever run for office and we don't vet them, we don't get them to talk about the issues that we want them to work on when they go to government services, then we don't need to put them in there. They go in there telling you what they gonna do. Is that really what you want? That's really what's best for your community? Or are you just going along to get along? No, we cannot afford to do that anymore because our government has been infiltrated. And I'm gonna say this again. John McCain, to me, represented my generation probably better than any one particular veteran, in my eyesight now. That's because I'm a Vietnam vet, and I'm a little partial because I've seen, a lot of people get wounded, a lot of people get killed in Vietnam. And I know that we were the best of our community. And with the way some of us malfunctioning after coming out of service, it's disturbing because I was a malfunction. PTSD took me to the ground. But John McCain had PTSD, but it didn't take him to the ground, because he had a better support base, and he stood up for this government like nobody had ever seen before as a Vietnam veteran. He got out and served in the Senate, and he served with distinction based on the Constitution. Even though he was a Republican, he served with distinction. As far as I was concerned, he dealt with issues, and they couldn't take that. They couldn't take the fact that he was concerned with the government functioning for the people, and that's the way he did his service. And he created a lot of enemies within his own party, and we can see that. But one of the enemies that he created was an enemy that he didn't want even at his funeral. And I often wondered why a senator would not want a president or a former president at his funeral when he died. Because he saw the traitor. He saw the traitor. John was a true American. He was an all-American that you would believe in and you could follow. And he saw that this person was a treasonous person that had already sold this country out before he even became president. We got to talk about these things and look at what actually happens in our community and all the things that we're doing. Right now, dealing with the issue of U.S. military veterans suicide, Frontline Community Service is doing it again. And we'll be doing it every Monday from 10 to noon. Every Monday from 10 to noon through December 2023. That means that all of us know somebody in our community, a veteran, or a veteran family member that's suffering from mental disorders. That need help, that could eventually commit suicide. The VA cannot deal with this problem alone, especially with the incompetence that we see at the VA. What we need to do is help. And that's what Frontline Community Service is doing. And I'm telling every veteran, especially those that in my organization, in my network, that we're working on their claim, to attend this event. Why? It will document. It will put in your records that you attend this event, and that you're seeking treatment, that you need help. And I don't know one of us that's suffering from mental disorders that don't need help. don't need somebody that they can talk to. I'm blessed. I have a therapist that she's leaving VA right now, but a therapist that has helped me see myself in a better light than my condition, and enabled me to actually learn more how to manage my condition. Learning how to manage my condition and doing those kind of things. Now I want to switch things from, because the lady, come on up, man. I need you up here for a minute, baby. It's coming up to sit next to me is a lady that I've been knowing, I guess I look back now, over 20 years.
25
years at least. And we met because she used to hold something. I still hold it because I was there this year in her backyard. A celebration, and I learned that it was also a birthday.
Oh yeah, but just for that day.
Yeah. But this celebration was for her brother, and her brother was one of the young people that's going to be honored on the Sons of Atlanta Vietnam War Memorial in Atlanta. And I want to say, City Council, City of Atlanta, thank you for what you've done. You funded the project, you built the project, we got the land, we ready to go. What we're going to be doing, though, is selling bricks, because we're not just here to honor Arthur in the park. We're going into the community centers and the libraries, and we're going to teach people what Arthur probably would have taught them if he had lived. We want to work in the community. We're going to create a volunteer army working out of the libraries and community centers in our community throughout Fulton County that's helping deal with the issues in our community. And you know, you being an educator, we started talking last week, all the kids are back to school, and with all this stupid stuff about gun violence and stuff, I wanted to get you to say something to us about the school system right now. And as veterans, I want to say this. We're going to get them automatic weapons out of our community, you know, so that y'all won't have to be afraid when you're teaching and caring for our children that they're going to be gunned down like dogs. We're going to deal with the community violence, because we can. We're going to awaken the churches that we in. Veterans set up in churches every Sunday. It's a moral issue, man.
Yes, it is.
You know, that we are killing each other, our children, you know, now, and I'm saying this, and we act like we can't do nothing about it. Yes, we can.
Yes, we can.
And you know, I'm so thankful to you. But I want you to tell me about how y'all doing in school, because y'all just got back to school, and you know, I'm a product of the Atlanta public school system, and you know, all of the people that we're talking about basically was a product of the Atlanta public school system.
Yes.
And our young people now are still a part of the system that's in the military.
Well, first of all, I want to thank you for allowing me to come on the show and speak out to the public concerning the different projects that we are doing with the Sons of Atlanta. But more so, I want to give you kudos and salute you, all the things, because you have been on this battle on the U.S. soil for many, many years. And I'm just so happy to see that you will be able to be around and see your dream become a reality. Yes. And I thank you for your untiredness of working toward the efforts of getting the Memorial Day program or site at Piedmont Park and recognized in the city of Atlanta. You have been just outstanding, and I really appreciate your support through the things that I have been doing for my brother, making people aware of Memorial Day programs. And so, you know, you just been right there with me every step of the way. And so people don't realize how much work you have put in. If you actually had the clock, the time that you have put in to make this happen in the city of Atlanta, the Memorial Day Park, you got 1 penny for every hour, you would be a trillionaire.
If I could get some of the money I spent back.
I mean, but you have really just volunteered of your time.
I'm just joking, Bear. I want to thank you.
Because I watched you.
You know, but, you know, I tell people all the time, give God the glory.
Okay.
Because I'm a product of His mercy, you know, His grace and His love. Because had it not been for people in my community, and you know, especially in the NAACP, and I tell people about Jose, I wouldn't have survived.
Yes.
Because I was one of the returning wounded, you know, one of those that had to watch the 58,000 of my peers get slaughtered.
Yes.
In a war that wasn't even popular.
Exactly.
And you know, my reaction to it was not good, but it was because of people in my hometown, especially people in the church, that didn't desert me.
Yes, and they deserted a lot of people, and a lot of people don't understand that. Even though we were representing the United States, fighting in the war for the United States, a lot of our casualties were friendly fire.
And now that's why your brother is being added to the wall. Because see, during this time, now we were just talking about this earlier, during this time, we were actually integrating the U.S.
That's
military.
right.
And that was racism on the U.S. military bases, and brothers and sisters that was trying to integrate into the U.S. military were killed just because of the color of their skin.
Exactly, and I felt like my brother was one of those.
And if we look at the facts in this case, it points to that.
Exactly.
It points to that, but you didn't give it up.
No.
You know, and we're not gonna give it up because see, he's going on the memorial as one of those people that was in the U.S. military that was killed during the Vietnam War. Because we want to open it up because, you know, there were other young men, you know, and young women that was in the U.S. military.
Yes.
That wasn't in Vietnam. That
Right.
was on military base in this country
Right.
that was murdered because of the
Exactly.
color of their skin.
Exactly.
Because of the things that it took for us to integrate the military.
Yes.
Now, as ugly as that sound, as ugly as it is, it was not a sacrifice for naught.
Exactly, and that's because of your efforts. I can sit here and just be so uplifted that what I was doing did not go in vain. But let's switch on now to the school system.
Yeah, let's talk about that because you get me all emotional.
Right. You know, what I'd like to see happen if we can coordinate something for the veterans to come in and speak with the children. Absolutely. And be volunteers. We have all types of days. Like this past week, we had Grandparents' Day where grandparents came in and read to the students. And a lot of those kids that's coming up now, elementary, middle school, high school, they're going into some form of military.
Exactly. And that's why when we say we're going into the community centers and the libraries, that's what we're going in there for.
Right.
Because, see, our young people, and we're so proud of that, still go into U.S. military service. And if you look at the military service of today, it's so much better than the military service that we're in because of the diversity, because of the multi-race personnel. And these young people get along better than anybody you've seen.
And they are very productive.
They are the best.
They are financially sound.
Well, they're financially sound, but that's a struggle. Now, I'm going to say this because you know what? I want people to understand that they need a raise. They need a raise just like basically most of the working force in this country. The U.S. military, one reason it looks so good financially, they don't have to pay rent and stuff like that. Except when they're off base and they get the housing allowance, right? And the way they got that Congress up there messed up now, they underpaying that because most of the people that want the off-base allowance, housing allowance, are married. Because my grandson just got married, and well, we got a 2-year-old now, man. I ain't never held her yet.
Oh, man. Wow.
You know, but, you know, I get to see her pictures. You know, thank you for the internet.
Right.
You know? But we got to stand behind our young people, and I agree. And what I got to admit that I have only did Washington High and Carver. I need to get to other schools. And I did them because of the ROTC units. I go talk with those young people because they already have a mind for service, and I want to be encouraging and educating to them too because, see, if they are made aware of the opportunities that's in the U.S. military, they'll be better equipped when they're going in.
Yes.
You know, they can make more out of it.
Yes.
You know, and I think you would have so many that's being discharged today with bad discharges because they weren't prepared to go into the military by their community. and that's what we need to do. So I'm going to be encouraging veterans to definitely
work with the school system,
working with the school system to try to help educate our kids about military service, and and about the other part of it too, some of the consequences of military service, so that families will be ready if they loved one come back home traumatized, because they're not just traumatized in war. You got young ladies being sexually abused.
Exactly. And when you were talking earlier, I wanted to mention that, but I was sitting on the sideline. Mm-hmm. But that's been a major issue also.
Yeah, it's a major issue.
Yes.
And you know what? The military is just coming to recognize it, and I think that's only happening because of the diversity of it. Mm-hmm. If it wasn't for that, because it's always been there.
Right.
It's always been there, because I can remember the first time I saw a sister. I was in Vietnam. I was wounded. I was in the hospital, so I was scared. But it was just a blessing to see somebody that looked like me.
Exactly.
In the hospitals over there. So our military service shouldn't be underplayed. What our community give, it should get back to there, because these benefits, right? They are so misunderstood that we have people that like your brother. Getting killed in the military, they get one check. Mm-hmm. They get one check. Now, what it should be, because they don't know this, when you go into the military, you have to claim a dependent.
Yes.
Right? Mm-hmm. My mom was my dependent all the time I was in the military.
And see, they didn't let us know that.
Had I been killed in the military, right, mm-hmm. she would have got a check for the rest of her life.
Mm-mm. It was one check, like you said.
One check. Because we're not informed of these benefits.
Exactly.
So that's why we've been doing this and trying to do this, making people aware of the benefits, telling them how the system's supposed to work, and in a lot of cases actually just helping them through the system to get to the benefits.
I suffer with that right now, and I know you had talked to me about it, but with my brother, mm-hmm. Had the ultimate sacrifice. Now, when they advertise about the military insurance, I don't know how to apply for it because I don't have any information.
Well, see now, when you talk about the military,
the USSA insurance.
Okay, now you can go through that because you can be a family member of a veteran, mm-hmm. and they're the one of the best insurance companies in the country because they do that. But you can just come up with his DD 214. And you could, as a family member, you can get the insurance.
Okay, well, we'll talk about that after, but let me just point out something, too, that's prevalent with the school system. A lot of our children that come into the school with behavioral problems, they come out of households with parents with PTSD.
Well, see, kids,
see that filters down to them, so that affects the school system. You asked me about what happens at school,
mm-hmm. and let me tell you something. Since I learned about PTSD, I learned that most of our children that come out of really poor community, mm-hmm. Have PTSD before they start school.
Yes.
Because of
what has happened,
domestic violence,
exactly,
or because of community violence.
Yes,
and see, we don't get that kind of teaching, so that we don't understand what is going on with our children killing each other too. Like today, they've been already traumatized. Right. They've already been victimized by the sense of violence that we have in our community. We need to address these issues. We need to stop acting like we don't know. And I'm calling out veterans to become more vocal. Even in the church.
Yes.
Because we got a lot of veteran preachers now. I'm not saying all of them was combat veterans, mm-hmm. but we got a lot of veteran preachers that were combat. What we got? We're at the end of the show. Mm-hmm. Okay, Val, I need you to talk about the school system for a minute. Okay, we got give 2 minutes.
Pretty much what I would like to see happen if the Vietnam vets and the Sons of Atlanta and any other military organization could reach out to the Board of Education, Atlanta Public Schools chairperson, and see what type of programs we can develop and coordinate so that we can have the veterans come out to our school and be more visible and make people more aware of the opportunities for the military and the benefits, and also help assist with the mental health issues that we have with the children. I work with 4-year-olds and I see it every day. Mental health problems with 4-year-olds. And if we can get more resources from people who are aware and know how to deal with children in need with having mental health issues, I think the teaching situation will be much more beneficial to the children. We would not have such a high turnover rate with teachers, and overall it will help the community, it will help the schools, and it will help the churches, and it will just help us as a whole to come together as one. And I appreciate this platform to be able to reach out and advocate for the youth.
And I want to say this. The Sons of Atlanta Vietnam War Memorial Project is a call to unity, not just for veterans, but for our communities to come together and work on the common problems that we got in the community, just like what you're saying. We got some of our children that need some attention.
Yes.
You know, and some of our veterans just need attention. So they need to come together. And this is going to have a great impact. And I promise you, this is going to be a part of the community.
Well, I'll be back next week, and I'll try to get some resources and some phone numbers and talk with some principals and the administration to see what we can do to get more involvement.
Okay.
It's been great to be here.
Like us on Facebook, follow us on Instagram. You can pick up the show too on YouTube now, but always on Status Network, always on Love TV. You can go back and look at what we're doing because we're doing it for you, the community. That's the only reason we're here. Rain, sleet, or snow. Thank you, Status Network. See you next week, same place, same time, doing the same thing, trying to make sense out of a sensitive situation called the plight of veterans in the USA and the USA with the plight of veterans. We're going to do something in Fulton County soon that ain't never been done. We hear the mayor wrangling about this here, but we're going to show them how to overcome homelessness in this city. So we're going to get all our people off the street, and we're going to get them back into a healthy, normal lifestyle.
We got the right person in charge.
Yeah. Next week.